The sun was setting over the small town of Willow Creek, casting a warm orange glow across its quiet streets. The air smelled faintly of freshly cut grass and barbecue smoke drifting from backyard cookouts. It was one of those evenings where everything seemed peaceful, almost too perfect to imagine anything could go wrong. But in the shadows of this picturesque scene, trouble was brewing. 14-year-old Marcus Johnson pedaled his bike along the cracked pavement of Maple Street, his backpack bouncing lightly against his back. Inside it were 2 library books he had borrowed earlier that day, graphic novels about superheroes with incredible powers. Marcus loved those stories. They made him feel like even someone as ordinary as him could do extraordinary things someday. He dreamed of becoming an artist when he grew up, drawing comics or painting murals that told stories people would never forget. As Marcus turned onto Pine Lane, heading toward his neighborhood, he noticed a distant rumble growing louder behind him. At first he thought it might be thunder, but then he saw them, a group of bikers roaring down the road. Their motorcycles roared like angry beasts, their headlights cutting through the twilight. Marcus slowed his bike instinctively, gripping the handlebars tighter as they approached. He didn't know why, but something about the way they rode so fast, so recklessly, made him uneasy. The leader of the pack, a burly man with a thick beard and leather jacket covered in patches, slowed his motorcycle as he passed Marcus. His cold eyes scanned the boy, lingering for just a moment before he sneered. "What you looking at?" the man growled, his voice rough like gravel. Marcus quickly looked away, his heart pounding. He didn't say anything. He just kept riding, hoping they'd leave him alone. But Ray Dawson, the man on the motorcycle, wasn't done. Known around town as Iron Fist, he was the kind of person who thrived on intimidation. To him, anyone weaker than him was fair game. And tonight, young Marcus Johnson fit that description perfectly. Ray signaled to his gang to circle back, and within seconds all 5 bikes surrounded Marcus, trapping him in a ring of noise and fumes. Marcus's hands trembled on the handlebars as he tried to stay calm. His mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none. One of the bikers laughed cruelly, revving his engine until the sound echoed like a gunshot. Another leaned forward, shouting something Marcus couldn't understand. But it was Ray who spoke next, his tone dripping with venom. "You think you belong here?" Ray spat, pointing a gloved finger at Marcus. "This is our town. You don't get to ride your little toy through it like you own the place." Marcus swallowed hard, his throat dry. I'm just going home," he stammered, trying not to let his fear show. But Ray wasn't interested in excuses. With a flick of his wrist, he pulled a rag from his pocket, doused it with lighter fluid from a small bottle, and lit it with a match. The flame danced wildly in the dim light, casting eerie shadows across Ray's face. Before Marcus could react, Ray hurled the flaming rag straight at him. Time seemed to slow as the fiery object sailed through the air, landing squarely on Marcus's chest. The fabric stuck to his shirt, igniting instantly. Heat seared into his skin, and pain shot through his body like nothing he had ever felt before. He screamed, dropping his bike and falling to the ground as he rolled desperately to put out the flames. Tears streamed down Marcus's face as he clawed at the burning fabric, his cries echoing into the night. The bikers laughed, their voices cruel and mocking, before speeding off into the distance. Alone and terrified, Marcus lay there, his body racked with agony. Smoke rose from his charred clothing, and blisters began forming on his arms and chest. It felt like hours before help arrived, though in reality, it was only minutes. Anna Mitchell, a nurse who lived nearby, heard the commotion while watering her garden. When she stepped outside to investigate, she saw the horrifying sight of a boy lying motionless on the ground, still smoldering. Without hesitation, she grabbed a blanket from her porch and ran to him. "Stay with me, sweetheart," Anna said softly, wrapping the blanket around Marcus to protect him from further injury. Her hands moved quickly but gently, checking his condition while keeping him calm. "Help is coming, okay? Just hold on." Anna called 911, her voice trembling as she explained what she had found. Neighbors soon gathered around, some offering words of comfort, others staring in shock. Someone brought a bucket of water to cool Marcus's burns, while another held his hand, telling him he was going to be all right. Despite their efforts, Marcus remained in excruciating pain, his breathing shallow and uneven. When the ambulance finally arrived, its flashing lights illuminating the dark street, paramedics rushed to stabilize Marcus. They carefully loaded him onto a stretcher and secured him inside the vehicle. As they prepared to leave, Anna climbed into the ambulance with them, insisting on staying by Marcus's side. She knew how important it was for him to have someone familiar nearby during such a traumatic experience. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, his thoughts jumbled and chaotic. Through the haze of pain, he remembered the bikers' laughter, the heat of the flames, and the feeling of being completely helpless. But he also recalled Anna's soothing voice, her promise that help was on the way. That small reassurance gave him a sliver of hope, enough to cling to as the world around him faded into darkness. At the emergency room, doctors and nurses sprang into action, assessing Marcus's injuries and beginning treatment immediately. Burns covered much of his upper body, and his condition was critical. Word spread quickly among the hospital staff about the incident, and many expressed outrage at the brutality of the attack. Among those who heard about it was John Cena, the famous wrestler and actor, who happened to be in town for a charity event. Cena had always believed in using his platform to make a difference, especially when it came to standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. When he learned about Marcus's story, he decided to visit the hospital personally. Stepping into the ER, his imposing figure drew immediate attention, but his demeanor was anything but intimidating. Instead, Cena radiated kindness and empathy, approaching Marcus's bedside with a gentle smile. "I'm John," he said softly, introducing himself to Marcus. "I heard what happened to you, and I wanted to come see how you're doing." Marcus blinked up at him, his eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, the pain seemed to fade as he took in the sight of the man he had seen on TV countless times. "You're really here?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. Cena nodded, placing a reassuring hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Yeah, I'm here, and I want you to know you're not alone. We're going to get through this together." Those simple words meant more to Marcus than Cena could have imagined. In that moment, surrounded by strangers in a sterile hospital room, Marcus felt a glimmer of strength returning to him. Though the road ahead would be long and difficult, he now had allies who believed in him, and that made all the difference. As the night wore on, news of the attack spread beyond the hospital walls. Social media buzzed with updates, and local news outlets picked up the story. The community rallied around Marcus, outraged by the senselessness of the crime. Little did they know, their support would play a crucial role in helping Marcus heal, not just physically but emotionally and as for Ray Dawson and his gang, their actions had set off a chain of events that would soon catch up with them in ways they never expected. The next morning, the small town of Willow Creek was buzzing with talk about what had happened to Marcus Johnson. News of the attack spread like wildfire, and people couldn't stop discussing it. At grocery stores, coffee shops, and even on social media. Photos of Marcus's charred bike lying abandoned on Pine Lane circulated online alongside posts calling for justice. Some residents were furious, while others felt a deep sadness, knowing that such hatred still existed in their community. John Cena stayed true to his word and remained by Marcus's side throughout the night. He sat quietly in the hospital waiting room, scrolling through his phone but keeping an ear out for any updates from the doctors. Occasionally, he would step into Marcus's room to check on him, offering words of encouragement whenever the boy woke up. Though Marcus was heavily sedated, Cena's presence brought comfort to both him and his mother, Karen, who arrived at the hospital early that morning after receiving the devastating news. Karen was overwhelmed with emotion, anger at the senseless violence her son had endured, fear for his future, and gratitude for the strangers who had come to his aid. As she sat beside Marcus's bed, clutching his hand, tears streamed down her face. Cena noticed her distress and pulled up a chair next to her. "I can't imagine how hard this must be for you," he said gently. "But please know that Marcus has so many people rooting for him, including me. Karen looked at Cena, her eyes red and swollen. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It means everything to have someone like you here. I don't understand why anyone would do this to my boy." Her voice broke as fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Cena leaned forward, his expression serious, yet compassionate. "What happened to Marcus is wrong, plain and simple, and I promise you we're going to make sure those responsible pay for what they've done." Meanwhile, across town, Ray Dawson and his biker gang were oblivious to the storm brewing around them. They gathered at their usual hangout, a rundown bar called the Rusty Wrench, laughing and drinking as if nothing unusual had happened the night before. To them, setting fire to a teenage boy wasn't something to lose sleep over. It was just another way to assert dominance in their world. Ray sat at the center of the group, puffing on a cigar and boasting about his actions. "That kid won't forget me anytime soon," he sneered, earning cheers and slaps on the back from his friends. One of the bikers raised his beer bottle in a toast. "To teaching these kids a lesson," he shouted, and the rest of the gang echoed his words drunkenly. Unbeknownst to them, however, someone in the bar was recording their conversation on a cell phone. A young waitress named Emily had been eavesdropping on their bragging, disgusted by their lack of remorse. She knew Ray and his crew were troublemakers, but hearing them laugh about hurting a child made her blood boil. Quietly, she slipped away from the table and uploaded the video to social media, adding a caption that read, "This is the man who set a 14-year-old boy on fire last night. Justice needs to be served." Within minutes, the video went viral. Comments poured in from all over the country, condemning Ray and his gang for their cruelty. Local authorities took notice too. Detective Mike Sullivan, a seasoned officer known for his dedication to solving tough cases, watched the clip with growing anger. He had already been assigned to investigate Marcus's attack, but now he had concrete evidence linking Ray to the crime. Detective Sullivan wasted no time. By mid-afternoon, he had assembled a team and obtained warrants for Ray's arrest. Accompanied by several officers, Sullivan drove to the Rusty Wrench to bring Ray in for questioning. When they entered the bar, the atmosphere shifted instantly. The laughter died down, and tension filled the air as the bikers realized why the police were there. Ray stood up slowly, his face twisted into a scowl. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, glaring at Sullivan. But the detective didn't flinch. "Ray Dawson, you're under arrest for assault and attempted murder," he announced, reading Ray his rights as he cuffed him. The other bikers started shouting protests, but Sullivan ignored them, leading Ray out of the bar and into a patrol car. Word of Ray's arrest spread quickly, bringing a mix of relief and satisfaction to the townspeople. Many gathered outside the police station, holding signs that read "Justice for Marcus" and chanting slogans demanding accountability. Among the crowd was Lisa Turner, a local schoolteacher and close friend of John Cena. Lisa had organized a fundraiser to help cover Marcus's medical expenses, and she was determined to keep the momentum going until Ray faced trial. Back at the hospital, Cena learned about Ray's arrest and decided it was time to confront him directly. He reached out to Detective Sullivan, asking if he could accompany him during the interrogation. Sullivan agreed, intrigued by Cena's involvement and confident that having a public figure present might put additional pressure on Ray to confess. When Cena and Sullivan entered the interrogation room, Ray looked up, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the wrestler. For the first time in years, Ray seemed unsure of himself. Cena towered over him, his muscular frame exuding authority. But his tone was calm and measured. "You attacked a child," Cena began, leaning against the table. "A defenseless kid who did nothing to deserve what you did to him." Ray scoffed, trying to maintain his tough guy facade. "Kid shouldn't have been riding where he wasn't wanted," he muttered, avoiding eye contact. Cena shook his head, his patience wearing thin. "You don't get to decide who belongs where. This isn't your town to rule. What you did was cowardly and you know it," Sullivan chimed in, laying out the evidence against Ray. The video confession, eyewitness accounts, and physical proof linking him to the scene of the crime. "You're looking at serious charges, Ray," the detective warned. Attempted. Murder, hate crimes. You'll be lucky if you see daylight again. For the first time, cracks appeared in Ray's bravado. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing between Cena and Sullivan. Though he didn't admit guilt outright, the weight of the situation began sinking in. His reckless actions had consequences far beyond anything he'd anticipated. As the interrogation continued, Cena stepped back, letting Sullivan take the lead. But his presence alone sent a powerful message. No matter how intimidating or untouchable someone like Ray thought he was, there were always forces stronger than fear and hatred. Forces like courage, compassion, and justice. Later that evening, Cena returned to the hospital to update Marcus and his mother on the progress of the investigation. Karen listened intently, her hands clasped tightly together. "Do you really think he'll go to prison?" she asked, her voice tinged with hope. "I do," Cena replied firmly. "People are watching this case closely. They won't let him get away with what he's done." Marcus, who had regained some strength since the previous night, managed a faint smile. "Thanks for being here, Mr. Cena," he said softly. "It helps." Cena ruffled the boy's hair playfully, careful not to disturb the bandages covering his burns. "Call me John," he said with a grin. "And remember, you're stronger than you think, Marcus. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Over the following days, the community rallied even more fiercely around Marcus. Fundraisers popped up everywhere, from bake sales to charity concerts. Strangers donated money, supplies, and messages of support, flooding the family with kindness. Even local businesses pitched in, offering free services to help Marcus recover. One afternoon, Lisa Turner visited the hospital to deliver a giant check representing the funds raised so far. "We've collected over $50,000, she announced, proudly, handing the oversized cardboard check to Karen. "And donations are still coming in." Karen hugged Lisa tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to thank everyone," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You've given us so much hope," Lisa smiled warmly. "This is what communities are for. We take care of each other." While the outpouring of love lifted Marcus's spirits, his road to recovery was far from easy. Physical therapy sessions left him exhausted, and the emotional scars ran deep. But with Cena's unwavering support and the encouragement of those around him, Marcus found the strength to keep pushing forward. He began sketching again, using art as an outlet for his pain. His drawings reflected his journey, images of fire transforming into birds taking flight, symbolizing resilience and renewal. As weeks turned into months, preparations for Ray's trial moved steadily ahead. Prosecutors built a strong case against him, bolstered by the overwhelming evidence and public outcry. Meanwhile, Cena continued visiting Marcus regularly, ensuring the boy never felt forgotten. Together they talked about Marcus's dreams of becoming an artist and how he could use his story to inspire others. Though the scars on Marcus's body would remain forever, his spirit grew stronger with each passing day. With the combined efforts of his family, friends, and unlikely heroes like John Cena, Marcus was learning to rise above the hatred that had nearly destroyed him. And as the trial date approached, one thing became clear. This was more than just a legal battle. It was a fight for justice, healing, and the belief that good could triumph over evil. The weeks leading up to Ray Dawson's trial were tense in Willow Creek. The town had transformed into a place where conversations revolved around one thing: justice for Marcus Johnson. People hung signs in their windows, wore T-shirts with Marcus's name, and shared updates on social media about the case. It wasn't just a local issue anymore. It had become a national story, drawing attention from news outlets and activists across the country. For Marcus, life was still a daily struggle. His burns required painful treatments, and he spent hours each week in physical therapy to regain movement in his arms and hands. The emotional toll was even heavier. Nightmares plagued him, replaying the moment when the flames engulfed his body. But through it all, Marcus found strength in the support of those around him. His mother Karen, John Cena, Lisa Turner, and countless others who had rallied behind him. John Cena visited Marcus almost every day, bringing small gifts like comic, books, or art supplies to cheer him up. One afternoon, as Marcus flipped through a new sketchpad Cena had brought, he hesitated before speaking. "Do you think people will forget about me once the trial is over?" he asked quietly, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Cena looked at him thoughtfully, setting aside the protein shake he'd been drinking. "Marcus," he said firmly, "what happened to you isn't something anyone should ever forget. Your story has already inspired so many people, and no matter what happens in court, your courage will keep inspiring them." Marcus nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in his eyes. He wanted to believe Cena, but part of him worried that once the trial ended, life might go back to normal for everyone else, while he continued to carry the weight of that night alone. Meanwhile, preparations for the trial intensified. Prosecutor Rachel Bennett worked tirelessly to build an airtight case against Ray Dawson. She reviewed witness statements, analyzed evidence, and strategized how best to present Marcus's harrowing experience to the jury. Rachel knew this wouldn't be an easy fight. Ray's lawyer was notorious for getting clients off on technicalities, but she was determined not to let him walk free. On the day of the trial, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Reporters filled the rows, cameras clicking as they captured every detail. Supporters of Marcus packed the benches, wearing pins that read, "Justice for Marcus." Among them sat John Cena, his towering frame making him stand out even in the crowded room. He exchanged brief nods with Detective Mike Sullivan, who sat nearby, ready to testify. When Marcus entered the courtroom alongside his mother, the atmosphere shifted. Everyone turned to look at him, some offering smiles or waves of encouragement. Marcus felt self-conscious under their gaze, his scars hidden beneath long sleeves and bandages. He clutched Karen's hand tightly, drawing comfort from her presence. The trial began with opening statements. Rachel Bennett stood confidently, addressing the jury in a clear, steady voice. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today we are here to seek justice for a young boy whose life was forever changed by an act of pure hatred," she said. "Marcus Johnson did nothing wrong. He was simply riding his bike home when Ray Dawson attacked him without provocation, leaving him scarred, both physically and emotionally." Ray's defense attorney countered by painting Marcus as someone who had trespassed into areas where he didn't belong, implying that Ray's actions were justified. The argument sparked murmurs of disbelief among the spectators, and Cena clenched his fists tightly, visibly restraining himself from reacting. As the trial progressed, witnesses took the stand. Anna Mitchell recounted finding Marcus on the ground, describing the horrifying scene in vivid detail. Her testimony moved several jurors to tears, especially when she spoke about the terror in Marcus's eyes as he begged for help. Detective Sullivan followed, presenting the video confession recorded at the Rusty Wrench. The footage showed Ray bragging about attacking Marcus, his words cold and unrepentant. When it came time for Marcus to testify, the courtroom fell silent. Karen squeezed his hand reassuringly as he stepped forward, his legs trembling slightly. Facing Ray across the room was difficult. The man's icy glare sent chills down Marcus's spine. But as Rachel guided him through questions, Marcus found his voice. "I was just riding my bike," he began softly, his words barely audible. Rachel encouraged him to speak louder, reminding him that everyone needed to hear his truth. Taking a deep breath, Marcus continued, "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't say anything to him. He just threw fire at me." His voice cracked as he described the pain of the flames and the fear of being trapped. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he didn't stop talking. For the first time since the attack, Marcus allowed himself to confront the trauma head-on, not just for himself, but for everyone watching. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Ray's lawyer tried to discredit Marcus's account, suggesting he exaggerated the severity of the incident. But Marcus held firm, answering each question calmly and honestly. Cena watched proudly from the sidelines, amazed by the boy's resilience. Closing arguments came days later, and Rachel delivered a passionate plea to the jury. "This is not just about punishing Ray Dawson," she said. "It's about sending a message that hate has no place in our community. That violence against innocent children will not be tolerated. Please, give Marcus the justice he deserves. After deliberating for 2 full days, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts, including attempted murder and hate crimes. Gasps erupted throughout the courtroom as Judge Harold Green sentenced Ray to 20 years in prison without parole. Cheers broke out among Marcus's supporters, and Karen sobbed openly, hugging her son tightly. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around Marcus and his family. John Cena stepped forward, shielding them from the crowd. Today, justice was served, he told the cameras. But more importantly, Marcus showed us all what true bravery looks like. He refused to let hate win, and because of that, he's become a symbol of hope for so many. The victory brought relief, but Marcus knew his journey wasn't over. Healing would take time, and scars, both visible and invisible, would remain. Still, he felt lighter somehow, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to imagine a future beyond the pain. Back home, Marcus picked up his pencil and started sketching again. This time, he drew a phoenix rising from ashes, its wings spread wide against a bright sky. Beneath it, he wrote a single word: hope. Word spread quickly about Marcus's artwork, thanks in part to Lisa Turner, who posted photos of his drawings online. Messages of admiration poured in from strangers around the world, praising his talent and resilience. Inspired by the response, Lisa approached Cena with an idea. What if we organized an art exhibit featuring Marcus's work? It could raise awareness about hate crimes while showcasing his incredible talent. Cena loved the idea. Together they began planning the event, enlisting volunteers, and securing a space at a local gallery. Over the next few weeks, Marcus worked tirelessly on new pieces, pouring his heart into each creation. His art told stories of survival, unity, and triumph over adversity, themes that resonated deeply with those who saw it. On the night of the exhibition, titled From Ashes to Art, the gallery overflowed with visitors. Friends, family, and strangers alike marveled at Marcus's work, moved by its raw emotion and beauty. At the center of the display stood the phoenix drawing, now framed and illuminated by soft lighting. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Dedicated to anyone who has ever felt broken. You can rise again." As Marcus stood beside Cena during the unveiling, he felt a sense of pride he hadn't known was possible. People lined up to shake his hand, thanking him for sharing his story and inspiring them to face their own challenges with courage. For the first time in a long time, Marcus smiled genuinely, knowing he had made a difference. That evening marked a turning point for Marcus. Though scars remained on his body and memories lingered in his mind, he realized he was stronger than the pain. With the love and support of his community and unlikely heroes like John Cena, he had reclaimed his life. And as he looked out at the crowd celebrating his journey, he knew one thing for certain. Hate may have tried to destroy him, but it had only made him shine brighter. The success of Marcus Johnson's art exhibition, From Ashes to Art, marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. What started as a way to heal and express himself turned into something much bigger, a platform for change. The event not only raised thousands of dollars for Marcus's ongoing medical expenses, but also sparked important conversations about hate crimes and resilience. People from all walks of life came together, inspired by Marcus's story and his determination to rise above the darkness. John Cena stayed deeply involved in Marcus's journey, acting as both a mentor and a friend. He often visited Marcus at home, bringing snacks or simply hanging out to check on how he was doing. Cena encouraged Marcus to keep creating art, reminding him that his voice mattered. "You've got a gift," Cena told him one afternoon while flipping through a sketchbook filled with new drawings. "Don't stop using it." Marcus nodded, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. His confidence had grown since the trial, but he still struggled with self-doubt. Could he really make a difference? Would people continue to care once the spotlight faded? These questions weighed on him, even as he worked on more pieces for future projects. To help ease Marcus's worries, Lisa Turner organized workshops where local kids could learn art techniques from Marcus. At first, Marcus hesitated. He wasn't sure if he was ready to teach, but Lisa convinced him to give it a try. "You don't have to be perfect," she said. "Just share what you know. These kids look up to you." The first workshop took place in a community center near Marcus's neighborhood. About 20 children showed up, ranging in age from 6 to 16. Some brought their own supplies. Others borrowed materials provided by donations. Marcus stood nervously at the front of the room, clutching a pencil and a blank sheet of paper. "Hi, everyone," he began, his voice soft but steady. "I'm Marcus. I love drawing because it helps me tell stories without saying anything. Today, I want to teach you how to draw something meaningful, something that comes from your heart." As the session unfolded, Marcus guided the kids step by step, showing them how to sketch simple shapes and turn them into powerful images. One boy drew a tree growing out of cracked earth, symbolizing growth after hardship. A girl created a portrait of her grandmother, capturing the warmth in her smile. By the end of the workshop, the room buzzed with excitement as the kids proudly displayed their artwork. Watching this transformation, Marcus felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced before. These kids weren't just learning to draw. They were finding ways to express themselves just like he had. For the first time, Marcus realized his story could inspire others to find strength in their struggles too. Meanwhile, news of Marcus's workshops spread beyond Willow Creek. Local newspapers wrote articles about his efforts, and soon invitations poured in from schools and organizations across the state. Lisa helped coordinate these appearances, ensuring Marcus didn't feel overwhelmed. Each event brought new opportunities for Marcus to connect with people and share his message of hope. One particularly memorable visit was to a high school in Chicago. Many of the students there faced challenges similar to Marcus's: poverty, discrimination, and violence. When Marcus walked into the auditorium, the room fell silent. He introduced himself briefly, then showed slides of his artwork, explaining the meaning behind each piece. As he spoke, the students listened intently, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and admiration. Afterward, during a Q&A session, a teenage girl raised her hand. "How do you deal with fear?" she asked. "Like, when bad things happen, how do you keep going?" Marcus paused, thinking carefully before answering. "Fear doesn't go away," he admitted, "but you can choose to face it. For me, drawing helps. It reminds me that even when things seem broken, there's always a way to fix them, or at least make them better." His words resonated deeply with the audience. Several students approached him afterward, thanking him for sharing his story and offering advice. One boy handed Marcus a folded piece of paper. Inside was a rough sketch of a bird breaking free from a cage. "This is for you," the boy said shyly. "It's my way of saying thanks." Moments like these reinforced Marcus's belief that his journey wasn't just about personal healing. It was about helping others heal too. With each passing day, he grew more confident in his ability to inspire change. Back in Willow Creek, the town continued to rally around Marcus. Fundraisers evolved into annual events, celebrating not only his recovery, but also the community's commitment to standing against hate. John Cena remained a constant presence, attending events and speaking publicly about the importance of supporting victims of violence. Together, they became a symbol of unity and perseverance. One evening, Cena invited Marcus and his mother, Karen, to dinner at a cozy restaurant downtown. Over burgers and milkshakes, Cena shared an idea he'd been thinking about. "What if we turned your story into something bigger?" he suggested. "A documentary maybe, or even a book, something that could reach people everywhere." Marcus looked surprised. "You think anyone would care about my story outside of Willow Creek?" Cena smiled warmly. "Absolutely. Your story isn't just about what happened to you, it's about how you overcame it." "That's a message the world needs to hear," Karen chimed in, her eyes shining with pride. "I think it's a wonderful idea, Marcus. You've already touched so many lives. Imagine how many more you could reach." Though hesitant at first, Marcus eventually agreed. Working with Cena and a team of filmmakers, They began documenting his journey, from the night of the attack to his recovery, the trial, and his emergence as an advocate for change. Interviews with family members, friends, doctors, and supporters painted a vivid picture of resilience and community spirit. Filming the documentary proved challenging at times. Reliving painful memories brought back emotions Marcus thought he'd moved past. But having Cena by his side made the process easier. "Take it slow," Cena reminded him whenever Marcus felt overwhelmed. "We're telling your story, not theirs." By the time filming wrapped, Marcus felt a renewed sense of closure. The experience allowed him to reflect on how far he'd come, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. He no longer saw himself as a victim. Instead, he viewed himself as a survivor, someone who had taken tragedy and turned it into triumph. The documentary premiered at a film festival later that year, receiving standing ovations from audiences. Critics praised its raw honesty and powerful message, calling it a testament to the human spirit. Marcus attended the premiere with his family and friends, including Cena, who sat beside him throughout the screening. When the credits rolled, Marcus stood up, tears streaming down his face. The crowd erupted in applause, cheering loudly as he waved shyly. For a moment, he let himself soak in the love and support surrounding him. This wasn't just his victory. It belonged to everyone who had believed in him along the way. In the months that followed, Marcus continued to grow as an artist and advocate. His artwork gained recognition beyond Willow Creek, appearing in galleries and exhibitions nationwide. Schools invited him to speak about overcoming adversity, and charities sought his involvement in campaigns promoting kindness and inclusion. Through it all, Marcus remained humble, always crediting his community for helping him get where he was today. Though scars still marked his body, Marcus wore them as badges of honor, a reminder of the strength he discovered within himself. And, as he stood on stage at a youth empowerment conference months later, addressing hundreds of eager listeners, he knew one thing for certain. Hate may have tried to break him, but it only ignited a fire that burned brighter than ever. As the months passed, Marcus Johnson's life transformed in ways he never imagined. What began as a painful chapter had turned into a journey of purpose and hope. The boy who once feared leaving his house now stood confidently on stages across the country, sharing his story with anyone willing to listen. His artwork, once hidden away in sketchbooks, was now displayed in galleries and classrooms, inspiring countless others to embrace their own creativity and resilience. One day, while visiting a middle school in a neighboring town, Marcus met a student named Jamal. Like Marcus, Jamal had faced bullying and discrimination because of his race. After the presentation, Jamal approached Marcus shyly, clutching a crumpled piece of notebook paper. "I drew this for you," he said, handing it over. The drawing depicted two figures standing back to back, each holding a shield against arrows, raining down from above. Beneath it, Jamal had written, "We fight together." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat as he looked at the picture. It reminded him so much of his own struggles, and how far he'd come with the support of others. He knelt down to Jamal's level and smiled. "This is amazing," he said sincerely. "Thank you for showing me your strength." Jamal beamed with pride, and Marcus realized that moments like these were why he kept speaking out. Every time he connected with someone, every time he saw hope reflected in another person's eyes, it reinforced his belief that no one should face adversity alone. Back home in Willow Creek, Marcus continued working on new pieces for an upcoming exhibition, titled Rising Together. This collection focused not just on his personal journey, but also on stories of resilience shared by people he'd met along the way. One painting showed a young girl reading under a tree, symbolizing education as a path to empowerment. Another depicted hands of different colors reaching toward each other, representing unity despite differences. John Cena remained a steady presence in Marcus's life, attending events and offering guidance whenever needed. Though Cena's schedule often took him around the world for wrestling matches and movie shoots, he always made time for Marcus. Their bond had grown stronger over the years, built on mutual respect and shared values. One evening, Cena called Marcus to discuss an exciting opportunity. I've been talking to some folks about creating a foundation, Cena explained. It would focus on supporting victims of hate crimes and helping them find their voices through art and advocacy. I want you to be part of it. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. A foundation? Named after him? The idea seemed almost too big to comprehend, but Cena reassured him, saying, "You're already doing the work, Marcus. This is just a way to amplify it, so we can help even more people." With Cena's support, Marcus threw himself into planning the foundation. They named it Phoenix, rising, inspired by the image of a bird rising from ashes. Local businesses donated funds and volunteers stepped forward to assist with logistics. Before long, Phoenix Rising became a beacon of hope for individuals and families affected by violence and prejudice. The launch event for Phoenix Rising took place in a park near Willow Creek, drawing hundreds of attendees. Booths lined the grassy area, offering free art supplies, counseling resources, and information about community programs. Performers sang songs and recited poetry celebrating themes of healing and unity. At the center of it all stood Marcus, surrounded by friends, family, and supporters. As Marcus addressed the crowd, his voice carried confidence and conviction. "Hate tried to break me," he said, pausing briefly as applause rippled through the audience. "But love brought me back." That's what Phoenix Rising is about. It's proof that when we come together, we can overcome anything. His words resonated deeply, especially among those who had experienced similar hardships. Parents hugged their children tightly. Teachers wiped away tears, and strangers exchanged knowing glances. For many, the event wasn't just about raising awareness. It was about finding belonging. In the weeks following the launch, Phoenix Rising gained momentum. Workshops expanded to include music, writing, and theater alongside visual arts. Counseling sessions provided safe spaces for participants to share their stories and heal, and partnerships with schools ensured that anti-bullying initiatives reached younger generations early. Through it all, Marcus balanced his growing responsibilities with his personal life. He returned to high school full-time, determined to graduate alongside his peers. Though his schedule was packed with classes, therapy appointments, and foundation work, he managed to stay focused. Teachers praised his dedication, and classmates admired his ability to juggle so much without losing sight of his goals. One afternoon, during a particularly grueling week, Marcus sat in his room sketching quietly. Karen knocked gently before entering, carrying a tray of snacks. "How are you holding up?" she asked, setting the tray beside him. Marcus shrugged, adding a few strokes to his drawing before answering. "I'm tired, but I think I'm okay. Sometimes it feels like there's so much to do, you know? But then I remember why I'm doing it." Karen nodded, her expression softening. "You've come such a long way, Marcus. Your dad would be so proud of you." At the mention of his late father, Marcus paused. Memories of his dad flooded his mind, their weekend fishing trips, bedtime stories, and laughter-filled dinners. Though his father hadn't lived to see the man Marcus was becoming, Marcus knew he carried his spirit with him every day. "I miss him," Marcus admitted quietly, "but I think he'd like what I'm doing. Helping people. It's kind of like what he used to do." Karen smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Marcus's forehead. "He definitely would, and he'd tell you to keep going, no matter how hard it gets." Encouraged by his mother's words, Marcus returned to his drawing. When he finished, he held it up to examine it closely. The image showed a bridge spanning a wide river, connecting two distant shores. On one side stood a lone figure. On the other, a crowd waiting with open arms. Beneath it, Marcus wrote, "Together, we cross." The drawing became a centerpiece of Phoenix Rising's next campaign, a call to action urging communities to unite against hate. Posters featuring the artwork appeared in schools, libraries, and community centers nationwide. Social media posts, tagged with "True Together, We Cross," spread rapidly, sparking conversations about empathy, inclusion, and collective responsibility. As Phoenix Rising grew, so did its impact. Stories poured in from individuals whose lives had changed thanks to the Foundation's efforts. A teenage girl recovering from cyberbullying credited the workshops with helping her rediscover her passion for photography. A single mother struggling to raise her son after a racially motivated attack found solace in the counseling sessions. Even former skeptics admitted they'd underestimated the power of art and community to heal wounds. One evening, as Marcus scrolled through emails sent to Phoenix Rising, he came across a message that stopped him cold. It was from Emily, the waitress who had recorded Ray Dawson's confession at the Rusty Wrench. "I just wanted to say thank you," she wrote. "Your courage gave me the strength to speak up when I didn't think my voice mattered. Because of you, justice happened. Not you. Just for Marcus, but for everyone Ray hurt." Reading those words filled Marcus with a profound sense of gratitude. He realized that while his journey had started with pain, it had become something far greater, a movement fueled by compassion and connection. Months later, Marcus stood before a massive mural painted on the side of a building in downtown Willow Creek. Titled Unity in Color, the vibrant artwork depicted diverse faces smiling beneath a bright sun. Children played together in the foreground, while adults worked side by side planting trees and building homes. In bold letters at the bottom, the mural declared, "Our differences make us strong." Dozens of volunteers had helped create the mural, including John Cena, Lisa Turner, Detective Mike Sullivan, and many others who had supported Marcus since the beginning. As they gathered for the unveiling ceremony, Marcus felt overwhelmed by the love surrounding him. "This mural is for everyone," Marcus said, addressing the cheering crowd. "It's a reminder that we're stronger when we stand together. No matter where you come from or what you've been through, you belong here, with us." Applause erupted as confetti rained down, blending with the warm sunlight. Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace wash over him. The scars on his body still marked his past, but his heart was whole again, filled with hope, purpose, and the unwavering belief that good could triumph over evil. And as he looked out at the sea of smiling faces, Marcus knew one thing for certain: love had won. Years passed, and Marcus Johnson continued to grow, not just as an artist, but as a leader and advocate for change. The boy who had once been afraid of the world now stood tall, using his voice to inspire others and his art to heal communities. His journey from victim to victor became a beacon of hope, reminding people everywhere that even in the darkest moments, there was always light waiting to shine through. By the time Marcus graduated high school, Phoenix Rising had expanded into multiple cities across the country. Workshops, counseling programs, and community events reached thousands of individuals each year. Schools adopted anti-bullying curriculums inspired by Marcus's story, and murals painted by volunteers dotted neighborhoods, spreading messages of unity and resilience. What started as a small foundation in Willow Creek had grown into a national movement, touching lives far beyond what anyone could have imagined. On the day of his graduation, Marcus walked onto the stage wearing his cap and gown, a broad smile lighting up his face. The audience erupted into applause as he accepted his diploma, cheering not just for his academic achievements but for everything he represented, a symbol of strength, perseverance, and hope. Sitting in the front row, Karen wiped away tears of pride, while John Cena clapped loudly, beaming with admiration. Afterward, during the celebration at home, Lisa Turner presented Marcus with a framed photo of the Unity in Color mural. Beneath it, she had written, "To Marcus, thank you for showing us all how to rise." Marcus hugged her tightly, overwhelmed by gratitude. "This isn't my victory," he said softly. "It's ours." Lisa shook her head, smiling. "You're the one who lit the spark, Marcus. We're just helping keep the fire alive." That summer, Marcus decided to take a gap year before starting college. He wanted to travel and see firsthand how Phoenix Rising's efforts were making a difference in other communities. With John Cena's support, he planned visits to cities where the foundation had established chapters, meeting with local leaders and participants to learn about their experiences. One of his first stops was Chicago, where he met Jamal, the boy who had drawn the picture of two figures shielding each other. Now a freshman in high school, Jamal had become an active member of Phoenix Rising, leading workshops for younger students and mentoring kids who faced similar challenges. When Marcus arrived, Jamal greeted him with a huge grin and a hug. "I told everyone you were coming," Jamal said excitedly. "They can't wait to meet you." Over the next few days, Marcus spent time with Jamal and other members of the Chicago chapter, listening to their stories and learning how they adapted Phoenix Rising's mission to fit their unique needs. One evening, as they sat together painting a new mural on the side of a community center, Jamal turned to Marcus thoughtfully. "You know, when I first heard your story, I didn't think I could ever be brave like you," Jamal admitted. "But now I realize bravery isn't about being fearless, it's about doing what's right even when you're scared." Marcus nodded, touched by the boy's words. "Exactly," he replied. "And look at you now. You're inspiring others, just like I did. That's what this is all about." As the months went by, Marcus traveled to more cities, witnessing the ripple effects of Phoenix Rising's work. In Los Angeles, he met a young woman named Maria, who used her experience surviving domestic violence to lead self-defense classes for women. In Atlanta, he connected with a group of teens who created a podcast discussing social justice issues affecting their community. Everywhere he went, Marcus found proof that love and kindness could overcome hate and fear. Back in Willow Creek, preparations began for the 5th anniversary of Phoenix Rising. The event promised to be the biggest yet, featuring speeches, performances, and an exhibition showcasing artwork from participants nationwide. Volunteers worked tirelessly to transform the town square into a vibrant celebration of creativity and connection. On the morning of the anniversary, Marcus woke early, feeling a mix of excitement and nostalgia. So much had changed since the night Ray Dawson attacked him, his life, his town, even himself. But one thing remained constant: the belief that together, people could create a better world. The celebration kicked off with a parade through downtown Willow Creek, led by Marcus riding a bicycle decorated with colorful ribbons and balloons. Behind him marched families, students, and activists carrying signs with messages like, "Hate has no home here," and "Love wins always." Spectators lined the streets, cheering and waving as the procession passed. At the town square, Marcus addressed the crowd gathered beneath a massive banner reading 5 years of rising together. His voice carried confidence and warmth as he spoke. "When I was 14, I never dreamed I'd be standing here today," he began. "I thought hate would define me, but instead love saved me. And because of that, I learned something important. We are stronger together." His speech drew thunderous applause, followed by performances from musicians, poets, and dancers celebrating themes of resilience and unity. Children ran around laughing, their faces painted with rainbows and stars, while adults shared stories and laughter over food trucks serving local favorites. Later that afternoon, Marcus unveiled a new mural dedicated to the anniversary. Painted by artists from across the country, the massive piece depicted a tree with roots stretching deep into the earth, its branches reaching toward the sky. Each leaf bore the name of someone whose life had been touched by Phoenix Rising, including Marcus's father, Ray Dawson's victims, and countless others who had found healing through the foundation. Standing beside the mural, Marcus felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had built something meaningful, not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in a brighter future. As he looked out at the smiling faces surrounding him, he realized that the scars etched on his body were no longer marks of pain. They were reminders of the battles he'd fought and won. That evening, Marcus joined John Cena, Karen, Lisa, and Detective Mike Sullivan for a quiet dinner at a cozy restaurant. Over plates of pasta and glasses of sparkling cider, they reflected on how far they'd come since the night Marcus was attacked. "To Marcus," Cena toasted, raising his glass, "for showing us all what true courage looks like, and for proving that love always wins." Everyone clinked their glasses, laughter filling the air. Marcus smiled, feeling grateful for the family and friends who had stood by him every step of the way. Though challenges still lay ahead, he knew he wouldn't face them alone. In the years that followed, Marcus continued to pursue his dreams. He enrolled in art school, Earning degrees in fine arts and education, his artwork gained international recognition, appearing in galleries and museums around the world. Yet, despite his success, Marcus never lost sight of his mission: to uplift others and spread hope. Phoenix Rising thrived under his leadership, expanding globally and partnering with organizations working toward peace and equality. Its message resonated with people from all walks of life, transcending borders and cultures. Murals inspired by Marcus's vision adorned walls in Europe, Africa, and Asia, connecting communities through shared values of love and resilience. One evening, as Marcus stood on a stage addressing an audience of thousands, he paused to reflect on his journey. From the boy lying burned and broken on Pine Lane, to the man standing confidently before a sea of supporters, he had traveled a long road filled with pain, growth, and triumph. "There will always be darkness in the world," Marcus said, his voice steady and strong. "But if we stand together, if we choose love over hate, kindness over cruelty, we can bring light to even the darkest corners. Because when we rise together, nothing can hold us down." The crowd erupted into applause, chanting his name as tears streamed down his face. For Marcus, this wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of a legacy. A legacy rooted in hope, forgiveness, and the unshakable belief that together we rise.